Like when you see a T-Rex,
You see,
You see, like-
when you go out and you see a
when you
T-Rex,
see-
that's what you mean?
when you go back 65 million years ago and you
Yes.
see a T-Rex, you're like, wow, that guy fucks, you know?
We are officially recording. Yes.
Yay!
Whoa. Wait.
Yay!
Yes. Welcome to episode number 3. Oh, that was very abrupt.
That was so abrupt.
How are you, Valerie? You just came from Scotland.
I came from Scotland. Scotland was great. It was sunny. Whenever it's sunny in Scotland or anywhere, like the last kind of 3 months in Denmark have been so sunny. And on one hand, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I get to be outside all the time. And on the other hand, there's existential dread because climate change.
Oh.
It's not supposed to be like this. So when I was in Scotland, it was sunny the whole time. You could also see that it hadn't rained for like 2 months. Like everything was dry. So yeah, you know, like you just look at it and get kind of sad, but you're also happy because it's sunny.
Yeah, I kind of agree. In a northern country, it's like, yay, it's sunny. Yay, it's 20. It's
But
30
like,
degrees.
why?
Yeah, whoa. Look a little bit south, and it's
Exactly.
droughts.
If it's sunny here, what is it everywhere else?
What is happening?
The world is on fire.
Yes, this April was very warm that just passed.
Yes.
And I mean, I know this
And
because,
dry. Like there was
Yeah.
no rain.
Yes, and April is, like the wild card. Like it could snow or it could be 20 degrees.
Yeah.
It could be like whatever.
Yeah.
Last year, it was very cold. And I remember because my first session of windsurfing, which is in April, was excruciatingly cold. But these years,
Yeah.
it was so warm.
It's
like, I
warm.
mean, you still needed a wetsuit, but still.
But like I walked here from the bus stop. Like I mean, I got on the bus and the metro or whatever from work, and I was in a tank top. Like I don't need a sweater.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess it's May, so maybe it's around that time. But still, like it's been like this since like March.
Yes, it's been very warm.
Yeah, which is concerning.
It has pros and cons.
Yes.
Yay.
Yay! In the back of my mind, all I can think of is.
We're fucked. But look at it in the bright side. This is the coldest May you will ever have.
That is not the bright side. I don't want it to get warmer than this. If
At some
I'm
point,
already
we can all just move to Norway.
True. Yeah, I'm just worried. My maximum temperature is about 27 degrees.
27?
Yeah, and then beyond that, I
What?
get really
But
upset.
You're not white.
I grew up in Canada.
Okay, fair.
Okay, it does actually get quite hot in Canada. The problem, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just, I've gotten better with the sauna because now that I go to sauna, and that's like, what, 90, 95 degrees. Not that you're there for that long.
What?
Yeah, it gets really hot. I went to sauna
Are you
this
talking
morning.
Celsius?
Yes.
Wow.
I was in there with Misha this morning, and it was like 90, 95 degrees. But it's obviously dry, so like you don't feel that it's 90 degrees.
I should do saunas because I don't.
But
I don't know.
it has gotten me more used to, like I was in Spain last month, and it didn't get to like 30, but it got to around 26, 27, and I was okay. So I feel like
Wow.
I've been training the resistance
to
heat.
To heat. No, I feel like I'm really bad with hot weather.
Me too.
Really bad. Like
Yeah.
where I grew up, it was. I mean.
Yeah, you're from Colombia. You have no excuse.
I do have excuse. I am from the mountains.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Where I grew up, it is rare that it was beyond 20 degrees.
Yeah.
20, 25, it was
That's
already
so
very
ideal.
warm.
We should go to Colombia.
It's very fruity.
That is what I want. I want to see fruits in the supermarket that I can't name.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
And it's also cute because
I want it to taste like fruit. That's it.
And you don't speak Spanish, not yet at least. So even if you know the name, you
Yeah,
wouldn't be
I
able
still won't
to
know the
say
name.
it properly,
Yeah.
which is fun.
Which is fun. And like I'll just live in eternal bliss, not knowing anything but eating fruit.
Yeah, the problem
That's-
is with global warming, the Ecuador is just gonna.
Yes, that is
So,
exactly
yeah.
what's gonna happen to it.
Yeah, it's gonna.
It's gonna.
So we're moving north,
Yes. Okay. Fine. Norway.
Norway. Yeah, Norway is great.
Yes. I agree. I could live in Norway
I would love to live
if
in
they'll
Norway.
have me, and also if I can afford it.
Yeah, a bit of a problem, right? You have your chickens there.
Yes, this is true. I have my chickens there. They're kind of thriving. Like they're actually doing like, as far as chickens go, they have a great life. Like they roam around outside by themselves eating bugs. Like they can lay eggs, but like we're not forcing them to lay, like they just kind of
Yes.
exist. The problem is sometimes they're unsupervised, which means they step on stupid things and then they have foot infections.
Ah.
And I'm like, you dumb bitches. Like you were like chickens are like birds live in the wild. Why is it that they get foot infections so easily? Like what is the like what you used to be dinosaurs.
Now you're nuggets.
Now you're nuggets. Now you can't even like hang out for a week without getting yourself into trouble. It's so like what happened to you?
What happened?
What happened? But they're fat, so they're living
Well,
great
I don't know
lives.
anything about chickens, but it sounds fun.
They're very fun. They're so silly. But at the same time, you look at them, you're like, you're a little dinosaur. But at the same time, you're so stupid.
Well, dinosaurs were not the brightest.
This is true, but I just imagine them to be a little bit more majestic. Like when you see a T-Rex.
You see,
You
yeah.
see, like-
when you go out and you see a
when you
T-Rex,
see-
that's what you mean?
When you go back 65 million years ago and you
Yes.
see a T-Rex, you're like, wow, that guy fucks, When you see a chicken.
He has game.
Yeah, this guy has game. When you see a chicken, you kind of feel bad for it. Like it's
Like, oh, you poor thing.
yeah, exactly. Like you wouldn't last a day without me, basically, or you wouldn't last a day without like literal chicken feed that's been like scientifically designed to keep you healthy. So I don't know. Evolution.
But I don't know how bioengineered are chickens.
I think they're fairly bioengineered. Like they're at least okay. There's different breeds.
Yeah.
The ones that we have 3 different breeds. The one is called, at least it resembles something I used to have when I was a kid, which is called Rhode Island Red, and they're engineered or bioengineered to lay an egg every day, which
Wow.
is bad for the chicken. Like
It's wild.
that's not natural.
Like your purpose in life is to give me
It's
an
to-
egg every
exactly,
day.
and those things are big and like heavy. Like imagine an egg coming out of your dick hole every day.
Wait. I think
That's like kind of it's okay. That's not exactly the comparison, but like
that is painful
it's
to
big.
imagine.
You hear them screaming. Like it
Oh.
is not like it is not pleasant for them, but they've been bioengineered to lay an egg every day. And then we have another one. I don't remember what the breed is called, but they were bioengineered to be meat chickens, so they're big.
They're fat.
Yeah, she's hefty. Like she could probably take me in a fight. Like that is she's
That doesn't say much.
no, it doesn't, but it's a chicken. So, like, of all the chickens, she's probably the most likely to kill me in a fight. And then we also have this Norwegian chicken, which wasn't really bioengineered, so she's really small and she doesn't lay eggs that often. And she's
Okay.
like the closest resemblance to a wild chicken or what would have been.
So
a
is
wild
she the
chicken.
one who thrives the most?
Yeah, she thrives. She's also a bitch. Like she knows how to get out of her enclosure, and she'll stay in her enclosure, and then when we say we go out to the supermarket and we come back, she will come out of the enclosure just to show us that she can. She'll walk up to us and then she'll go back in. Like she is the sassiest chicken I've ever met, but like she knows her way around. Like
So
she can.
she's your favorite chicken.
She's
then.
my favorite chicken.
Of course.
Yeah. But she causes mischief. She'll like break things for fun. Like and it's for fun because she doesn't break them until we're looking at her and then
Okay.
she'll break it.
Okay, just like the cat that is like throwing something
Exactly.
off the.
She's kind of like a cat actually.
Okay.
So, but she's obviously the smartest and the most like adapted for the world, but you can see the effects that like the chickens are fine, but you can see how they have been engineered to really not survive in the wild. The fat one's the one that keeps getting foot infections because she's too big. She keeps like stepping on things or like landing too hard on the ground or whatever. So we have to constantly bandage her feet.
Oh, poor chicken.
Yeah, but she has the best life ever. So like I can't even no, she's fine.
Yeah, well, among chickens, she's doing great.
Exactly. Like there are billions and billions of chickens that
Oh yeah, poor
live
chickens.
terrible lives and don't
Yeah.
have feathers and like barely get fed and don't see sunlight. In comparison, these chickens, they're fine.
Yeah, lately I've been putting more attention to the heart labels in Denmark to I don't know, I guess how humane was your meat raised kind of. And I used to buy one that was like very good and very affordable, and it was terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. I don't know how those chickens lived, but it's terrible. And I'm like, I'm better than this. I can buy
You can
better.
fork out like 10 extra kroner just to like
Well,
buy.
I wish it was 10 extra kroner.
Okay,
It's
yeah, maybe it's
twice
like-
the price. Like literally twice the price for the same amount of chicken. But it's like, well, I can afford it in
Yeah.
poor chickens, and I don't want to leave meat. So I can do this.
Yeah.
So I just do it.
That is that brings us to the topic of our podcast,
Yes, naturally introduced.
which is
sacrifice. What do we put for sacrifice? We don't have.
we don't have a sacrifice button. That's not the right button.
Okay, the sacrifice button. Okay, tell us what you mean exactly by sacrifice.
Sacrifice. I think we live in a world.
In a world.
In a world. And we live, at least in Denmark, probably the most comfortable lives. Like, we're in the top 1% of people who live comfortable lives.
Yes.
We live and work in a society that is relatively, like, uniform, well-designed, supportive, expensive, but, you know, we live comfortable lives. And that, I think, often is taken for granted. But I think as immigrants, you know what it could be. And you know
see the difference.
It could be so much worse.
You see what are the things that the Danes complain about?
Yeah.
And you're like, really? Is this your...
That's the hill you're dying on?
Is this your is this your tragic story?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and you come from Canada.
Yeah, I come from Canada. Canada also probably top 1-2%, like very comfortable place. But Denmark is another level of like cushiness. Like they don't have any problems.
They don't have problems.
Like no problems at all. So when you live in this context, I think it's important to think about what you could sort of reduce or give up or sacrifice in order to make the rest of the world a better place, and realize that your footprint on the world, and it doesn't have to be carbon, but any footprint, is larger than most, and you are taking advantage of resources far more than someone else's. Like, for example, if they live in Zimbabwe or
Yes.
in a place that doesn't have electricity or doesn't have running water, and being aware of that and knowing what is a luxury and what isn't a luxury.
Yeah, but to be clear, it's like sacrifice that you in your daily life, like the general public, could make in order to make things better, more sustainable.
It's just if you had everyone in the world living like Denmark, the world would be fucked. The world is already fucked. But like,
yeah, it's true.
It's just a depletion of resources that's so big.
Yes.
And it's not that, I think a lot of people have the argument that, you know, the reason the world's dying because of overpopulation, but like there are a lot of people on this earth who don't consume that much and don't have that much of an impact on the resources of the world. It's just, if you think about the US and and Europe and Canada, that have people who living in a way that's unsustainable. And so we thought we would explore ideas on what people in Denmark and the rest of probably the developed world could sacrifice, or could do, or practices they could adopt in order to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and not to say that Denmark is super wasteful. I mean, it is. But if you put it in context, it's nothing compared to the US, for example.
Yes, this is true. And I think, but problem is when you put anything in context, it's nothing compared to the US. Like, the US cannot be the benchmark.
Compare whatever against the US and everyone is doing great.
Yeah, exactly. But if you compare Denmark to like any country in, I don't know, Southeast Asia.
Yeah, a developing country.
Yeah, developing or emerging. What do they call them now? Like, what's the...
What is the politically correct way to... Politically correct. I think my only friend who listened to this podcast, so it's basically three of us in this conversation right now. My best friend from Colombia. And he's like, oh, I listened to your episode number 2. You say a couple of things that are like a little polemic. Like, you're going to be canceled at some point. And we're like... Yeah, maybe. That's okay. So you can just say whatever term you want for those countries. I think it's not going to matter.
Yeah. Okay. Countries that are kind of poor.
Developing countries?
Developing countries.
Okay. What were we saying about those?
That like the benchmark like of someone who like the consumption rate of someone in Denmark is so much higher.
Yes, but I think, for example, in Denmark, I have to say that it's not that I perceive people to be like wasteful.
No.
Like, I don't think that they waste resources on purpose or just don't care. Mm-hmm. They do care about recycling and sustainability and things. But they also have such a rich lifestyle that sometimes without even noticing, they have a lot of privileges that are not the most sustainable.
No, like a summer house.
Yeah.
Or even a car.
Wait. Okay, you want to start with that?
We've kind of touched this topic already, so maybe we don't have to.
We can do it. We can fight about it again.
I'm not gonna fight you. I'm just saying, having a personal vehicle to drive around, that's like high consumption.
It's worth it.
It's-
Okay,
it's-
but I think that's a very important topic. Like people are willing to make some changes in their life,
Yep.
but there are things that they don't really don't want to change.
Yeah.
For example, if you tell them instead of eating this chicken that was really terribly raised, eat this other chicken that had a happy life. I think that's okay. And people will be like, I don't even care. This one is a little more expensive, but
Yeah.
I can pay it.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you tell them you cannot eat meat ever again, here you go, not even eggs, now you're vegan. I'll kill myself.
But meat is so expensive. Like it
Meat
actually,
is expensive, but I think that's good because
yeah,
it is
no,
expensive,
exactly.
I don't eat as much.
Yes, this is true. But like I get like growing up with meat and like having a culture that eats meat for every meal, or I don't know, like it's part of, I think, yeah, food is especially a touchy topic because it's part of cultural identity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fact that if you were just buying things based on price, being vegetarian is cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, because the vegetarian options are accessible, and I was talking about this today actually, when vegetarianism first became a thing, the vegetarian options were so weird because no one knew how to make vegetarian food. Or like it's just, I mean, this was in Canada, so like it's a place that eats meat a lot, and also the way that the dishes work, and I don't know if this is because they never evolved a food culture, is you generally on your plate have like separate things. Like you would have meat, vegetables, grains. Like
It's the same in Colombia.
yeah, so like you wouldn't have like, I mean, there's things like chili or soup, like where you
Yeah.
mix it, but more often you would have steak, broccoli, and rice or something. Like it would
Yeah.
be separate. And so trying to replace the steak element would be really weird because they didn't have an alternative. So you'd get things like, I don't know, mushroom steak, which didn't taste like steak. Like they would be trying to replace the meat part the best they could, but it didn't make any sense. And now
Yeah.
you have things like, why don't you just think of it as a different cuisine? Like you have lentils or tofu, like which are in other cultures really obvious. Like Indians have been eating lentils for like thousands of years. Japanese have been eating tofu, or like East Asians. But that has become a little more integrated. So it is actually easier if you want to be vegetarian to actually find food that's good rather than like cardboard steak.
I agree. And also, I have been thinking about it a while. About 6 months ago, I was having a conversation with my best friend from work, and he's vegetarian. I'm not. And we were talking about girls, and we at some point found out that I wouldn't date someone who is not vegetarian. No, wait, what? I wouldn't date someone who doesn't eat meat,
Okay.
and he wouldn't eat someone who eats
you
meat.
wouldn't eat. I
Wait.
hope you wouldn't eat anyone.
Do I have to rephrase that?
No, I got it.
Okay, I don't want to date a vegetarian.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to date someone who is not at least vegetarian. And
Interesting.
that was the
Why
the
wouldn't
first
you
point
date
of view.
vegetarian?
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of the sharing in a relationship is what do we eat, what
Yeah.
do we do, and if you don't agree in what you want to eat or what you want to do, it's
But you
It's a
don't have to
nightmare.
eat
But
everything the same all
I
the time.
agree. So I've been thinking about it more, and it's actually not an issue. Nowadays, you can go to whatever restaurant you want.
Yeah.
Like you, as a meat eater person, you can decide on the restaurant, and even if it's a steakhouse,
Yeah.
they will have an option for vegetarians that is actually pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
that
And
is-
also, like, if you're making food together, you eat lentil stew for one day, you won't die.
Exactly.
And then the next day you have something, like, you eat separate things. Like, it's...
That is one aspect. Like the food, I mean, they have options, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna affect your meat eating habits.
Yeah.
And the second thing, even if you decide like, okay, today I'm gonna eat like with you, so we're gonna eat the same, and you eat what they eat, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And
As long as they can cook it.
yeah, I mean, as long as you know how to cook,
Yeah.
it's actually really good.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's vegetarian and his girlfriend is vegan. They invited me for dinner this weekend, and he like I asked him like, "Oh, what's for dinner?" And he's like, "I have one good news and one bad news." The bad news is that it doesn't have meat. The good news is that it's gonna be fucking delicious.
Was it fucking
It
delicious?
was delicious. It
Yeah.
has some tofu, some shit thing. I don't even know what they did, but it was good. It was
Yeah.
damn good, and I was like, wow.
I actually think
This is an option.
vegetarian food became, at least in the West, like a different cuisine that people had to learn how to make. It's like learning how to make Indian food. Like you wouldn't know at the beginning when you're making Indian food, you would have no idea like which
Yeah.
spices go in or how much of it goes in, whatever. And now people are learning how to make vegetarian
Yeah, I
food,
mean,
and it's actually good.
I don't really cook vegetarian, but if you ask me, I would be like, okay, I won't put meat, and then instead I'll put more, I don't know, beans.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot easier. I
mm.
mean, it's almost easier than allergies because like if you
That's the other thing. If you have a friend who has allergies, it's so annoying to go out with them. Like you don't say anything, but come on, you're allergic to some kind
it's
of
gonna
oil.
kill them.
Yes, but it's annoying, and that brings me to another topic that has nothing to do with today's, I don't know, topic.
Yeah.
What in the world happened in the developed country that you have allergies? Like
I
you're
don't
allergic
know.
to grass,
Yeah.
you're allergic to peanuts, to I don't know, sesame
It's
seeds.
because we're
Is-
rich enough that even if you have a deathly disease, you survive. Whereas in your countries, you just die.
In my country, there's no like, oh, I'm allergic to almonds. I'm sorry, do you have no?
No, but there is this thing, I don't know what it's called, but about how like immunity in the Western country or the developed countries is getting worse just because it's so sheltered. Like
Yeah, you have everything so easy that you're now dying for peanuts.
yeah, I mean, I'm not allergic to anything, and my mom was also like she had the same opinion as you. She's
Yes.
like, if they have a peanut allergy, why don't they just die?
Exactly, like it's called natural selection. If me opening a bag of peanuts on
If
an
your
airplane
friend
is
thought
gonna
that-
kill you, you deserve to die.
If your friend thought that the other podcast we were talking or like we were saying were controversial, this is like next level.
we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
We never did, but it's like now we are a little more comfortable.
We are not advocating for the death of people.
We're just saying that's what should happen.
That's advocating.
Well, okay, that's what Mother Nature would do to you.
I mean, if you can avoid peanuts on your own, whatever, like good on you for
Yeah,
adapting.
yeah. But I'm not gonna stop eating my peanuts on the plane just because you would die.
That's like kind of an intense allergy. I couldn't even imagine being someone who was allergic to something just by smelling it.
Yeah,
And then you go into anaphylactic shock.
It's nuts. That was the right button.
I'm quitting.
You knew what you were you were getting into.
Where were we? Meat. Dating people.
Yes. So dating vegetarians is actually pretty good.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had an issue with diet or like people that I like friends or people I was seeing having an issue with diet. It's the only issue that I could encounter is when people think that they're like try and post stuff on you.
Yeah, when
Like they
are
shame
like,
you for eating
they,
meat. and
they
stuff
shame
like
you
that.
for eating your delicious steak. Yes.
But it's actually I used to be a huge steak. Like when I was growing up, steak was my favorite food. And-
Steak is delicious.
But I grew out of it. Like now I don't think I would do it. Like I wouldn't choose to have steak. Like obviously if it's put in front of me, I would eat it.
Really?
Yeah, it's not.
I think I would still I would like to have like a steak like once a year.
Yeah, okay, it's like a luxury item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Well,
I don't know if I crave steak. Like it's not. But I was like a huge meat eater when I was growing up. I loved meat, and it's not that I don't love meat anymore. I just don't have the urge to eat it. Really, not like I mean I still eat fish a lot, but pork and beef and chicken not so much. Which is proof that you can change your habits.
yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming back to that, on sacrifices, I had a hard look at my life, like my habits and
Yeah.
what I do and what is more sustainable than other things. So the good thing is that I'm poor. Therefore,
Hooray!
I don't waste a lot because I don't have a lot. You know what they say? You don't have money problems, you don't have money.
True.
So I think the highest portion of unsustainable stuff that I do on my daily life is definitely from my eating habits. And I think the way to fix it is basically what I'm doing. Like, eat less meat. If you eat meat, make it come from a source that is less bad for the chickens
Yes.
or whatever animal you're eating. And hang out more with your vegetarian friends. in
Yeah.
general, that's a good thing.
You'll be introduced to interesting things that maybe you didn't realize were good, and
Yeah,
now
I mean,
you know they're good.
If I tell this to myself from 6, 7 years ago, it's like, you hippie.
Oh no, you're turning
They changed you.
leftist. They've changed you.
Yeah. But there are other things that I wouldn't want to sacrifice. For example, I want to have a car. But that's the thing. I want to have a car as a toy.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in getting stuck in traffic every day.
No, yeah. And also, yeah, if you drive your car once a week,
Yeah.
that's better than commuting every day.
If on Sundays you just go on a ride, I don't know, North Zealand, and you just go
Yeah.
see the sunset and come back, that's it. That's what I want my car for. It's
Yeah.
a toy.
But that's going to be so expensive just to have like,
I don't mind.
okay. Just cars are expensive as well.
Yeah, I
like
mean-
you're paying insurance and gas and whatever.
For sure.
They're a terrible investment, actually,
Yeah.
if you think
but,
about
but
it.
that's why if you don't need it,
Yeah.
like you don't have it.
Would you be open to sharing a car with someone else?
No one is gonna get into my car if they have dirty hands or no.
What if
no.
it was like your best friend?
Well, of course. But
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a car
Yeah.
and you need a car, I don't know, on a Saturday, and you ask me for it, I would just give you the keys.
Okay.
Like, go ahead.
Nice.
That's okay.
Hell yeah.
Not strangers.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. But I mean, like, would you co-own a car with your friend? Like, if you only use it once a week
Yeah.
and they only use it once a week and you both had the car, like, you can basically, each of you have half a car in that sense. Okay.
That's okay. That's doable.
Okay. Yeah, and that, yeah, I think that's a reasonable use of, it's a toy, basically.
Yeah.
It's just
but
a big boy toy.
This comes with a big asterisk. Like, you have to be able to move
Yeah.
without needing a car, which is
Yes.
a big thing.
Yeah.
For some people, it's very doable. Like, they have their work in the city and they can just bike, they can just take the train or the bus or whatever, and it's faster, it's cleaner, it's better.
Yeah.
But for some people, it is not.
No, true. And I mean, Denmark or Copenhagen in that sense is way better than a lot of cities in the world.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that in Toronto or you couldn't do that in Bogota or like
Nope.
there's a lot of cities it's not livable in that sense or like not livable without a car, which obviously a defect of bad urban planning, but also population. Like these countries have very densely populated areas that just ended up expanding a lot.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, for example, Toronto could easily have a better transport system. They just haven't invested in it because there's this culture around cars that people like having. Like, even if they have to commute an hour and a half every day, which is crazy to me, they would rather have that than get on the train.
Yeah, it would be nice if you had access to a car.
Yeah.
For, I don't know, if you have kids or you go on a trip on the weekend, it would be nice that you can put them somewhere and go. Or if you are going to go grocery shopping, like if you're a big family and you have like a lot of groceries, you don't want to carry that on your bike.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Access
Disagree,
to a car,
actually. I love when people have way too much stuff on their bike. It's hilarious. I
That is
love
me.
people. Yeah.
I mean, that's okay if you're buying for one person for 1 week.
Yeah,
but if you're a family of 4 and
Yeah, it's
Dai
difficult.
is buying like
Cargo bike.
I like that idea. Okay, erase what I said. Cargo bike, your shit out
I
of.
love cargo bikes.
Yeah.
I also love one of my favorite things is when people bring like furniture on the
Oh,
metro
yes.
because they've definitely bought it off like Facebook Marketplace or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
and they bring like an entire bench.
An entire. I saw guys with the TV
I
in the
love
S train,
it so
like a big
much.
TV, and it was clearly like 3 guys who lived together in the same apartment, and they just bought the
I
secondhand
love that
TV.
so much. That's like the epitome of city life for me is
Yeah.
seeing people like do things that you would normally like hire a moving van for
yeah.
or like strap to the top of your
Why?
car or something.
Why would you hire a mover
Exactly,
when you
when
have
you
2
just take it
bodies
on the
and a
metro.
6-pack of beers?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I like that's like community living that I really strive for in the rest of the world.
I also like that a lot.
But yeah, I think I could live without a car for now. I mean, because I'm in Denmark, I can live without a car, which
Yeah.
I think is a great thing. Like it's a privilege that I think a lot of people take for granted
Yeah.
that they don't need a car.
I agree, but also sometimes the public transport is, even in Denmark, is pretty bad.
Yeah,
Sometimes, like I work very far.
Yes.
It's more than an hour from the city center.
Yeah.
And when you're coming back, if you come back at like after a certain hour, the bus is like it says 20 minutes, but sometimes one doesn't come. So if it's every 40 minutes,
Yeah.
so if you have a window of time and you missed it, oh, sorry, buddy, you better go back inside and play with your computer because it's going to be another 40 minutes. And it just sucks.
Yeah. And having reliable public transport is truly, like, that is when society peaks.
Yes.
Is when the bus comes on time.
Yeah,
Because
and not only
even-
on time, like it
and
is
frequently.
frequently,
Yeah.
like every 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and that means that a lot of the route is gonna be empty and it's
Yeah.
gonna be quote unquote wasteful.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd rather overshoot
I mean,
that
yeah,
than,
exactly.
than just have a bus that is not reliable and have
It
to
also
buy a car.
encourages more people to take the bus. So, like, in theory, actually, you can run a bus every 15 minutes and there's enough people to get on each one of those buses.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's peak times. I think having sort of regulated times where, you know, when someone is coming back from Ballerup or, like, into Ballerup from Copenhagen, between the hours of 4 and 7, they're running every 15 minutes. But, like,
No, it's
after
like,
that...
like every 10 minutes.
Yeah, or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like every 40. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, ways they can adjust the timing.
Yeah, in general in Copenhagen, and sorry, I'm gonna rant about this. Like the S train is kind of okay.
Yeah.
It's like every 10 minutes during the day, and then when it's night or like after I don't know what hour, it's like every 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Which 20 is kind of a lot, but 15 is very okay,
Yeah.
doable. But and then after midnight and so on, it's like once every hour or like half an hour.
Yeah.
Which I mean, okay, if we're talking about 3 a.m. once every half an hour,
Yeah.
pretty okay.
Yeah.
So the S train, thumbs up. But the fucking buses.
Yeah, the buses are bad.
Yeah, the buses are very unreliable.
But I'm really, like, like, I used to live in a town where the bus came every hour and a half, and sometimes it didn't come. Like,
Yeah.
that was my standard for bus.
Yeah,
And
okay,
since
fair.
then, my standard has gotten so high because I live in a place where the bus actually kind of comes.
that I kind of agree. I think someone listening this like, outside of a developer is like,
Yeah.
these motherfuckers.
But even in
they left-
Canada, like, all of my friends will be like, shut the fuck up. Like, the bus
Probably
comes
they
every
are.
20 minutes. Like, shut up.
leave a comment telling Valerie like, come on, shut up.
Or I also get this with the metro. Like, I'll miss the M3. The next one comes in 3 minutes, and I'm like, bro, what the hell?
3 minutes.
Yeah, literally 3 minutes.
Boo-hoo.
And I sit there, I'm like, oh, my life sucks. I missed
I
the...
have to open Instagram for 3 minutes.
Exactly.
What a nightmare.
It's the worst. Like, but like, every time I have to check myself and be like, if this was anywhere else, it would be
Yeah.
at least 10.
Yeah, at least.
At least.
If this was Colombia, there's no metro.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the fact that there even is a metro and it's like a 10-minute walk from my house is incredible. That's crazy. But I've just lived in, I mean, now I've lived in so many places that actually have a metro that I've forgotten
Oh my
where
god.
my roots.
You privileged
I
bitch.
know, literally. I go home to Canada, I'm like, this place fucking sucks. this place has
Yeah.
no infrastructure.
I think the thing that sucks the most when I go back home is the traffic. The
yeah,
traffic
I
is
hate traffic.
horrible.
Yeah, it's the same in
And it's also
Toronto.
very, very noisy.
Yeah. It's noisy. It doesn't smell good. It's loud. Like, yeah, that's the same as noisy. Duh. It's just
It's loud and it's noisy.
And yeah, it was funny. I went back to Toronto with my boss, who is Danish, like has grown up in Denmark. Never really. I mean, he's traveled. He used to be a diplomat, so like he's seen other places. But we went to Toronto, and it had just snowed, and on the side of the roads there was like literally black snow from all of the sort of
Yeah.
debris that had come off the road. And he looks at it and goes, "Disgusting," and then keeps walking.
Disapproved.
Yeah, literally, he's just like, I can't do this. We were actually walking under like a car tunnel, and there was actually an inside place that I didn't take us because I don't know why. I think it might have been there was like a weird detour or something. And he's like, "Why didn't you take us inside? I don't like being here." I was like, "Whoa!" And for me, I thought, "Wow, like Toronto's gotten a little cleaner." And he was like, "This place sucks."
Yeah, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and he's like, he recently went back to Bogota. He was living in Lima, in Peru, and he went back to Bogota. He's like, damn, this place sucks. And he was talking to a friend, and they're like, yeah, but it was worse a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. Yeah, your standard of what is good changes really depending on where you are and like
Definitely.
what you're used to and where you live. But even like your comparison, even when you're back for a week, you're like, oh, maybe this is actually better with it than when I grew up. But it still sucks. And then you
Yes.
come back to Denmark.
Something that I really hate to coming back home is like the glass in the apartment is just single glass because we don't need like thermal
Yeah.
isolation. So you can hear anything from outside. I hate it.
Oh my god, you're such a prissy. Like
Yeah, I was working from home a couple of weeks ago, and there was a guy cutting the grass, and it's like, oh, so I closed the window, no sound. Amazing. I love it here. Yeah. Go triple window glasses.
Yeah, and I mean, that's when you go from somewhere that's worse to somewhere that's better, your life is really good. Like, I love it
Of
here.
course, yeah.
When you live in the same place and, like, you just kind of take it for granted, I feel like there's a certain level of, that's why everyone drinks, because no one is happy. But then there's like the sacrifice part where you have to reduce your standard of living in order, because, like, to maintain the standard of living is highly consumptive. Is that a word? No. Consumes a lot.
Okay.
And if you were to, for example, not drive every day, that is an inconvenience for you. And to to take away people's conveniences, I think is a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
you have to, even the eating meat part, like, you're not necessarily taking away convenience. You're taking away preference, or like there's preferences that you have to change.
Yes.
But even that is not a convenience thing. It's just, I'm used to eating meat and now
Yeah.
I'm eating lentils. But yeah, how do you convince a population that actually your standard of living has to be, it's not lower, it just has to change, I think, in order to, like, maybe you don't get access to, you don't have, 24-hour sauna, because that's electricity that's running literally every minute. And heating is expensive. It's very inefficient to heat with electricity.
That is very expensive.
And, like, to, I don't know, expect people to not have that luxury anymore, I think is going to be a hard sell for Danes, for example. If you
Agreed.
tell them they can't have their sauna all the time.
Yeah. What do you think is the most wasteful thing on your daily life? Because I think you were pretty...
No, mine's very obviously flying.
Oh, okay.
I have, like, I did my carbon footprint, which is, like, in itself a shitty idea because it was made by a oil company to make people feel bad so they didn't have to decarbonize, But I did it, and, like, 90% of my emissions are flying.
Wow.
Yeah. But I've also realized that of that 90%, like, 70, 75 is from one overseas flight because I went home.
Okay.
And, like, that, like, I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice going home in order to reduce my carbon
I
footprint.
agree. Like, well, going home about once a year
Yeah, once a
sounds
year is
reasonable,
But,
right?
like, you go, like, one transatlantic flight, like, because I've kind of reduced everything else in my life. So, like, I don't have a car. I bike to work. I don't really eat meat. What else is there? I don't buy new things. Like,
Yeah.
my clothes are secondhand. So, like, in the
Unless
rest
you
of my
need
life,
stuff, you
unless I
don't
need
buy
stuff,
it.
but I really don't, like, yeah. Like, I try and buy secondhand, and I think most of the things I bought, for example, this year have been secondhand, or I haven't bought it, like, or I get them from friends or things like that. Like, I don't have really, like, a consuming footprint, but, like, I flew home once, and that's almost
it.
100% of it. Like,
But I think that's pretty good.
yeah, it is, but even that, like, brings me over the average, like,
Hmm.
of someone who maybe doesn't need to go home. Like, transatlantic
a-
flights are very intensive.
So
like,
a thing that is wasteful
yeah,
is less
than
harmful
me
for the
flying
environment
home.
than you
Yeah.
just living your...
According to this calculator, which, like, may or may not be accurate, but it is, I mean, it is a huge impact to go on this big sort of flying tin can. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of oil. So, yeah, then
tin can.
it is a tin can.
Son of a bitch.
Okay, aluminum can.
Airplane.
Airplane. That, like, I think it's very cool that we have airplanes. I think it's cool that I can live in Denmark and
love
still go
airplanes.
and I think airplanes are cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's a cool piece of technology, and I also think it's, like, globalization is a good thing. I like that you can go home or live in Denmark and still see my family once a year or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely, like, if I really wanted to be, like, below the average or, like, reduce, I would have to not do that, which I don't know if I'm willing to do.
Yeah. I had that conversation with a friend. So we also travel a fair amount for work, for going to conferences.
Yeah.
And my friend he's German. And for some reason, the two closest German friends that I have, they are both vegetarian and very conscious about their footprint, and very nice, like, great for them. He tries very hard to not fly whenever he can avoid it. So he's the guy who's like, oh, instead of going to Munich by plane, I'm just going to take the night train, and it's going to be more sustainable. I prefer flying. But then when I speak with him, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, he makes me feel like a little bad. Like, he is not eating meat and not flying. He is a great role model.
Yeah.
But then I think about it, and it's like, well, I live 25 years in a developing country. My overall emissions is way lower than yours.
I guess you can
So
always kind of rationalize it.
I can, and that's a problem because
Yeah.
now I just fly wherever I want. But I mean, I think here in Europe it's kind of okay because you can take the train and
Yeah,
it's
I
kind of
do, like,
reliable
every
as
single
long
time I
as you
try
don't
and
go
take the
through Germany.
Yeah, but you have to if you're coming from Denmark.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's not that bad.
No, true.
But I think my threshold for how long I'm willing to stay on a train is lower. Like for me, 6 hours is like, okay, let's take the train.
Yeah.
8 hours?
No.
12 hours? Sorry, I'm flying. I'm just taking a plane, what, 2 hours? Instead of being the entire day on a
Yeah.
train.
I've definitely I do try and take the train, and I love night trains, so like I will take the night train. If I'm going to Prague to visit Lars or like my boyfriend, I will go just like I'll go overnight train to Berlin, and that's 4-hour train to Prague, and like that is not a big deal for me as long as it's an overnight train. Like I don't want to spend
Okay.
daytime going.
Yeah.
But then like a transatlantic flight, you cannot take
Yeah,
a train.
that's
like
the thing.
you have no alternative.
There is no way to go.
Yeah.
And what is interesting is like this friend that I'm telling you, he did his external stay in the United States. So he was by far
Yeah.
the most polluting out of all
Exactly.
of us.
And like it's just there's so many emissions that go into flying that you
Yeah.
take one flight and that's it. Like you've ruined everything
Yeah.
that you've done.
But then you start to put things in perspective and it's like, okay, I took one flight.
Yeah.
What about the people who have their jets?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you put things in perspective. The other thing is like flying emissions overall, like over the total carbon that's emitted in the world are 3%.
Yeah.
So it's better if you don't drive because that's like 17. So not that okay. And the other thing is the personal carbon footprint is so small compared to people. I mean, there's people with private jets and their carbon footprint's probably fucking huge. But most of air transport is shipping packages, and most of land transport is trucks going back. Like
Yeah. Trucks and like super
even if your
big-
carbon footprint was 0, there would still be Amazon.
Yeah, I agree. And that brings us to a point that is very important is like being sustainable as a society, like the general public, that is important.
Mm-hmm.
Less consuming, let's say, less plastic and less meat and less, I don't know, car
Yeah.
for the sake of driving a car. I agree. But the real problem is not going to be solved by that.
No.
That is only part of the equation. You also have to have policies to apply companies to do stuff in a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And even then, there will be problems that will not be solved like in the next 10, 20 years. And there will still be burning fossil fuel for flying and the big ship containers,
Yeah.
the big boats.
Mask.
Mask, yeah. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
We're not aiming for 100% renewable. It's just getting better.
Yeah, but I think there's certain areas, and I also want to hear your thoughts about this, where people, like individual choice influences more. So like if I stop eating meat and there's a trend of like enough people that stop eating meat, the meat industry goes down just because no one's eating it anymore.
I agree.
Whereas things like, I don't know, land shipping, how am I supposed, like I don't influence whether they put it on a truck or a bike or a whatever. It's more difficult for me to influence that with my own choices.
I agree.
Other than like campaigning, which I think is like, if you want to campaign, you're going to campaign. I think that's a great thing. It's just there's only so many choices in your individual life you can make that actually have systemic impact. But I think food is one of them. Like it's fairly easy to just say, yeah, I actually don't feel like eating meat, and you influence your friends because that you give them vegetarian food, and they're like, damn, that's good.
Yeah.
And overall, there are more vegetarians now than there were 10 years ago, like way more. So in that sense, it's easier to influence, and like not flying and telling people you took like, oh, I found this cool night train. Like I think there's things that you do individually that do have a more systemic impact, but then there's things like Amazon that you can stop buying from Amazon, but I don't. That's the convenience part. Like
I agree.
Denmark doesn't have Amazon, so maybe they just never experienced. But if you took Amazon away from Americans, they would riot. Like
for
they
sure.
can't get like, you know, same day shipping.
They cannot get groceries.
Yeah.
from Amazon.
That is just something. It's like I would want to ask someone who actually does use Amazon, which is like not that many people that I know, but how you would live without Amazon, because that's just part of your life now.
I think at least here, I don't know in Europe in general, but at least here, like a little bit more north, people use it, but for like very specific things.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna buy this computer that I cannot find it here. So it's just gonna come from Amazon Germany.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure. I
Yeah.
mean, how often do you do that? Once every 5 years.
Yeah.
Go ahead, by all means.
That's the thing. Like Amazon does have this. It's not even just convenience, but sometimes you cannot access it unless you go on Amazon because they have, I don't know, like a very specific piece of cloth that you need, or like they have the world market is on Amazon. And if I live in Denmark and I can't get that, maybe I'll buy it from Amazon. I haven't had to do that. Fortunately, maybe my interests aren't niche enough, but like I haven't had to go on Amazon and buy dancing shoes because I know one in Spain. Like it's also that having Amazon gives you the convenience that you don't have to go and look for other things, which I think the sacrifice there is like to actively go and find local businesses that make the stuff that Amazon will give you maybe cheaper and maybe more conveniently.
Yeah.
But I still think you need to take the time. It's just deciding to do that is difficult because why would you do that? If you have all these metrics that you're like, why would I buy this? And like, is it price? Is it quality? Is whatever? Amazon wins on a lot of those things.
A lot of the time it wins, yes.
The only thing it doesn't win on is local. And sometimes that's the most, or you have to weigh that more than everything else. But that is a conscious choice. That is not rational. Like for you as a person, if you're trying to like make your life better, buying local isn't necessarily the right choice.
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, it makes more like that is how you change buying habits. It's difficult.
I think it's
Especially if you like shopping. And like I've never been someone who likes shopping, so it wasn't a difficult thing for me. But some people like having new clothes every month or I know people who have giant wardrobe, like walk-in wardrobes because they have all these clothes.
Yeah, like how do you move out?
Yeah. And also, the other thing, speaking of moving, if you move house, it forces you to get rid of so much stuff.
So much
Immigrating to
trash.
other countries, you get rid of all your shit.
Yeah, you get your shit together, literally.
Yeah.
And
you
you
only
just-
have one suitcase, and that has like a 50 or like a 25 kilo weight.
23.
23.
You get two, but putting your whole life in two suitcases
Yeah.
is hard.
It's hard, but you really have to sort of triage everything that you own. And then once you move, you're like, I never want to do that again. So then you stop buying
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, that's part of the mentality here. Like when you move countries, it's like, I don't want to have a lot of stuff because I don't want to deal with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
No
And
stuff.
most of the stuff isn't actually that important to me. Like,
Yeah.
I can get rid of this shirt. I don't need it. There's certain things that I have kept over the however many countries I've moved to, but there are certain things that I left a long time ago.
Yeah.
But if you don't move and there's people who've never moved house, you accumulate so much stuff.
I agree.
And you keep buying more stuff because the old stuff is boring. And then you get more things. And you buy the newest. Okay, I want an air fryer. That is the one thing I would buy.
That's a sign that you're becoming an adult.
Oh my God, I love air fryers. I thought they were a huge scam. I thought this was like a huge trend that was gonna die. And then I tried one in Guatemala, of all places. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah. They were like, yeah, it was the Airbnb I was staying at. And the guy was like, no, it changed my life. I was like, how? And it was like, he was like, put a potato in it. And then it baked a potato in like 7 minutes. And I was like, what the fuck? That's insane. So now I really want an air fryer.
I love your surprise for an air fryer. That's insane.
It was so
It's
cool.
a cooked potato.
Yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, wow, this really does make my life better.
That's the convenience. Like when I've seen people saying like, okay, things that I like, electrical things that I wouldn't replace in my house. There are things like I can live with them. Like some people could live without a blender.
Yeah.
Some people could live without, I don't know, a toaster.
Yes.
Some people could not live without a microwave for some reason.
Yeah.
But the one that is very much cited as one that they don't want to leave is definitely the dishwasher.
Oh, yeah. I love dishwashers. But the nice thing about dishwashers is normally they use less water than just washing your freaking dish. Like, they're
That's
more
true.
efficient.
That they're more efficient. So go dishwashers.
I also think air fryers are more efficient than ovens, but I cannot confirm that. This might just be air fryer propaganda because I love air fryers.
It seems true. It feels true, but
yeah,
I don't
it's
know. I haven't
smaller.
done
I
the
don't
math.
know. Maybe you have to. I don't know.
It's less time. It's,
It just seems like a very condensed oven. It's like when you put the
Yeah.
oven on convection, but like 100 times.
Yeah, and it's also smaller, so you have to warm
Yeah.
up a smaller volume.
Exactly. So yeah, this might be air fryer propaganda. We are not sponsored by any air fryer companies.
Sponsor us. Sponsor us.
But oh man, I want an air fryer. I just had there was literally a mental barrier to me buying new things
Why?
because
Well,
I don't
do you want an
want to
air fryer?
consume things.
Do you want an air fryer for your birthday?
Like
That's a yes.
like when I get gifts from people, I can't say no.
Okay.
But also, like, I have looked at, like, my DBA searches are for air fryer. My Facebook Marketplace, there is, like, air fryer in the history. But then I get overwhelmed the amount of choice.
Oh, that's so easy. Just pick one.
But, like, what if one air fryer is better than... There's, like, double-decker air fryers.
You just want to go for the Rolls Royce of the air fryers?
Well, if it's secondhand, I could get whatever I want. Like,
Oh,
I don't
that's
feel
true.
like that bad about it being like it's cheaper than it normally would be. It's secondhand. Someone bought it and like didn't want it, so like I can get whatever I want. And then there's so much choice.
Well,
I bet you could cook your meat in the air fryer. Like that sounded weird. I bet if you put the steak in the air fryer, it would taste good.
no, well, okay. I think I could, but if we're talking about the steak as a luxury good,
Yeah.
I would prepare it like
Okay, yeah, fair.
in a fancy way, you know.
Would you like if you had if you were mandated to only eat steak once a year, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I think I do that already.
But like would the like idea of being controlled, like you can only have one
I wouldn't like the idea,
yeah, okay.
but I would be like, this sucks. Okay. I
yeah, that's fair.
honest because it's not affecting what I actually do.
Yeah.
I would say okay, fair.
Yeah.
Like what I mean, I don't like to be controlled like that, but fair. I really
Okay.
whatever. Air fryers.
Air fryers. I love air fryers. But like maybe I just love the idea of them.
I don't know.
No, I think I saw the potato. It's real.
Yeah.
This love is real.
Coming back to the dishwasher, I lived with one, and yeah, it was awesome. And now I'm living without one.
It sucks.
It sucked at the beginning, but now I don't know if it's because my life in general is my shit is more together or what, and I'm living happier. I don't know, but I just wash the dishes. That's okay. Life is good. I mean, yeah. The only problem is like you use more water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense if you're one person.
Yeah,
Because if you have a dishwasher, as like you'll never fill it, and it'll just be.
that's also true.
Yeah.
Like every time I wash my dishes, it's like one, maybe two plates.
Once I lived in a flat that had a one-person dishwasher, like it sat on the counter, and you would just put in like 4 or 5 dishes.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, it was weird.
But wait, this one you could see the water?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like it was nice because I don't have to wash
Yeah.
dishes.
I don't have the space for it, but I would buy it just for seeing the
That's
water.
honestly part of the reason why I don't have an air fryer. I don't have the space for it.
That's
it's
good.
giant.
But you will.
But I will.
You will very soon have the space for it.
That's the other thing about like sacrifices is if you like per person have more living area, that is worse for the climate than if you didn't have more living. Like me living in a 30 square meter box is better than me moving to an 149 square meter flat, even with 3 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, the heating and the like land and whatever, I feel like sort of adds up. And people in developed countries have way more land than ones in non-developing countries.
In non-developing countries?
Developing in the process
Yeah.
of becoming developed.
But I think that's changing.
Yeah.
Partly because of buying a house is so expensive, and the ones
True.
that they're building now, they're more sustainable, but also smaller.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess they're more efficient.
Yeah, they're very more efficient in energy terms, at least.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like the new housing stock is definitely a lot better than the old ones,
Yeah.
but
But
there's
it-
still all the old housing stock.
But at this rate, in 10 years, nobody will be able to buy a house. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Honestly, recession great for the climate crisis. No one can
That
afford
is
anything.
true. You see the trends
Yeah.
when COVID hit, like, whoa,
Yeah,
we did great. Oh, wait, this year sucked.
yeah. I think that might be canceled out, but like the next recession might be because of a war, and I think that cancels out because of wars.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. In a war, because of the war, you are consuming way more. And
Yeah, true.
doing more
I mean,
shenanigans.
you as a person probably consume less, just because. I mean,
Yeah, but that is way offset
Yeah,
by
by
the government
all
just
of the
exploiting
tanks.
your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Have you heard a tank when they turn it on?
No.
It sounds, well, kind of amazing, but
Is it like an airplane?
no.
Okay.
It just consumes a lot of fuel.
Yeah, I could
I'm
imagine.
talking about the old tanks.
That's literally just like a ton of steel.
Yeah, you're moving a thing that weighs a ton. More than a ton,
More
actually.
than a ton. I think like a little Fiat weighs like a ton.
Yeah, today the cars, especially the electric cars, they're so damn heavy.
Yeah.
And
So heavy.
that's one of the reasons why I don't want to have an electric car. And that's one of the things that I'm not willing to sacrifice. I want to buy my car.
Are you actually
soon.
going to feel the weight of your car?
Yeah. Have you driven a car?
Yes.
Yeah. When you go
Okay, but-
around the corner, you feel the weight
Okay,
a
I don't
lot.
think I'd go that fast. I don't know.
You don't have to go fast. You can go below 60.
Okay, yeah, actually, no, you're right. I think that is true. I've only driven like 2 electric cars.
When you check like car reviews and the people who, I mean, nowadays is like, oh, I have 500, 1,000 horsepower. And people are like, yeah, cool. But it's not about horsepower. It's about horsepower divided by the weight.
Yeah.
So as long as you have enough power and you have very low weight, that's the goal. That's the dream.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, the trend of cars getting bigger as well, even if it's an EV, like, is kind of insane to me. Like, why
Yeah.
do you need...
I mean, the batteries weight a lot. And even if you're not an EV, you're just like a regular car.
Yeah,
Well, no. An EV, but not an SUV.
yeah,
Those are plus 3 tons.
yeah. And why do you need an SUV in the city?
That's true. That trend of having an SUV, I think, is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's not, like, you're never going to be carrying enough stuff for that to be worth it to, like, buy it.
Maybe yeah, exactly. You could, once a year,
Yeah.
need an SUV.
Yeah, to
Then-
move maybe, or,
Yeah, or like move something.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You bought furniture.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
But you should be able to find an alternative for that one time a year.
agreed. Why do you need an SUV? Or, yeah, yeah, why?
But I think it's nice in Denmark. You can rent those trailers that you can just put in the back of your car.
True. I also like the scheme, and I think this is also part of reducing your own consumption, but the scheme of sharing cars. Like, not that I don't have a car, but I think I would be comfortable with sharing it with strangers. I know you aren't, but the fact that I can go on a website and rent a stranger's car when I don't need one every day and they don't need it every day, I think
Yeah.
is a cool thing because it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And for me to buy another car, there's no reason. So having these like sharing schemes, and there's a lot of these sharing schemes in Denmark. I think that's actually quite a good thing that that's come out
it's
of it.
very nice. When we were in Visby with my PhD friends last year, well, Visby is an island in Sweden, so it's an island. An island, like it's an island, a
Yes.
big island, but yeah. So we just rented a car from a person,
Yeah.
a regular person
Yeah.
that was not using it that day. So we just used it to go all around the island.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Which is nice. Yeah. You
Just-
don't go through all the bureaucracy of a company.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of like money exchanging hands between people. That's great. And you don't have to, you're not buying a whole new car, which
Yeah.
is great. You didn't have to drive there. You didn't have to, like, import your car, basically. But, yeah, and things like Too Good To Go, where, like, restaurants give away food that they don't need anymore, I think is great. Or,
It's awesome.
yeah, it's just the idea of, like, I think the idea of privatization has gotten really intense, that people like want their own stuff and aren't willing to share, is part of the inefficiencies. Like, most of the stuff you don't use all the time. So why won't you share it with other people? And I know there's certain things like, I don't know, underwear that you're never going to share with you. Like, obviously there are limits,
Obviously, yeah.
but my car, I don't really care. Or I don't know, if someone needs my flat for a bit when I'm not there, that's fine. But yeah, it's the idea of like shifting your comfort with how much you're sharing, I think also is like a sacrifice you need to make of your private. It's not even private life. Like, I don't think there's things in my flat that are private necessarily, like maybe a diary or something, but there's
Your
nothing.
diary.
Which, if I had one, might be private.
Might be private.
But like, there's nothing in my flat that I don't think I can share. Or if there is, I put it in a box and I tell people not to use it. And I respect that they won't use it.
Yeah, the times that I've like rented a place that I needed for like a month or
Yeah.
so, they just tell me like, oh yeah, by the way, in these boxes, like yeah, that's my stuff. Just please don't touch it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just don't touch it. and
Exactly.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Which is so much better than you like going out having to find like a hotel or like. I mean, Airbnb is kind of that concept. It's just
It's
become
gonna
really
be
commercialized.
way more expensive.
Yeah, it's gonna be expensive. It's like they've basically turned them into a hotel anyway. But there's something nice about sharing people's there's something that you need to get over, I think, in order to be able to share your space with someone.
Yeah.
And I
You
know
have
a
to
lot
be
of people who
comfortable
wouldn't.
with it.
Yeah.
And part of that is like society, right?
Yeah.
Here, people trust.
Yeah.
And people share, and it's nice. So it's kind of contradictory, right? Because Denmark wastes a lot. Like, is not super sustainable. We just said at the beginning that if we all live like Danes, the world wouldn't be big enough. But also Danes do a very good job at sharing and being conscious and having a good transport system. So then what do they have to do?
But I think it's obviously not all days. I think there's people who participate in these kind of things, and
I also
people
think
very
that
much don't.
Somehow we are not in contact with every Dane.
No.
Like the Danes.
Yeah, I mean,
we
live in
friends,
a Copenhagen bubble where...
That's one thing.
Yeah.
And also within the Copenhagen bubble, we are friends mostly with the Danes who want to hang out with internationals, which is not everybody.
Which is not everyone. No, exactly. And yeah, definitely. I mean, if you work in like wind or in climate policy or whatever, which we do, you tend to be around the people who will also be thinking like that.
Yeah, in a more international environment.
Yeah, if you go, I mean, we have friends whose dads won't even think of it. Like, it's not that far removed where you get to the people who are like, why would I let anyone use my car?
Yeah.
It's my car. I paid for it. Like, and I don't want people touching my steering wheel or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm gonna eat pork.
And I'm gonna eat pork because it's my
Saturday.
right. Yeah. Like, it's my freedom to do so. I don't think that's that far off. It's just we don't hang out with those kind of people. But yeah, I guess it's worth it for everyone to consider what they're willing to give up. But I think that benchmark changes. Like, if you would ask me 10 years ago if I'd give up steak, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Every once in a while, you get like a little bit of a shift where you're like, actually, I don't need steak. That's
I think it's
fine.
all about baby steps.
Yeah.
Like when,
it's a gradual thing.
If you told me about tofu, like here it is a piece of tofu, eat it. Not that far ago, like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I was already in Denmark. I would be like, I would die before I tried that thing. But then you put it on a meal with some sauce and some stuff, like some potato. This meal that I told you about in the weekend, it had potato. I love potatoes. So it was like, well, I'm not sure if this is potato or tofu because it's covered in the sauce that is delicious anyway.
Yeah.
So I just tried it. And by the time I knew, I had finished my plate because it was so good. So baby steps.
That's what I'm saying about like vegetarian. This is especially like food becoming better because I grew up on tofu because it's Japanese, so I know how to eat it. But there's sometimes where I've seen tofu in the supermarket and I'm like, what the hell? Like
that looks terrible.
That looks terrible. And I wouldn't want to eat that. Like I've eaten tofu my whole life and I don't want to eat that. It looks like an eraser. Or it's like flavored kind of weird. Like I don't like there's an adaptive also from the product side, like the people making the tofu.
Yeah. I think it's important for someone who maybe should change a habit to hang out in an environment that makes it viable.
Yeah.
So for example, if your canteen at work is good at preparing vegetarian food, you might try it because it tastes good. So you would be more willing to try it. Words, English.
I agree, but it goes both ways. Like they wouldn't serve vegetarian food unless someone had asked for it, or like they thought that there was demand.
Yeah, but at some point it has become a norm.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the more our generation and Gen Z are going into the workforce, they're like, "What? You only eat meat? Come on."
Yeah.
So at some point they're like, "Okay, I'm not eating with you guys."
Yeah, it's gradual and it is happening. I think people are way more aware of their sort of impact in the world because they can be. And that's the other thing is it's a luxury to think about this kind of stuff because if you're barely surviving,
of course.
Who cares? Like,
yeah, of course. If you're in a developing country and all you have is this chicken, well...
I'm going to eat the chicken.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so if you have to, you eat it.
Yeah.
But if you are in a position where you can choose, well, try to choose a little better.
Yeah. Spend like a few more krona and get the happy chicken.
Yay, happy chicken.
Or spend fewer krona and get the tofu. Like, also works.
I'm not there yet. But I have friends.
But you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm going in that direction.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be a point where the chicken is just too expensive and I just replace it with tofu.
Yeah.
Maybe not every meal, but I cooked once a week, like for the week, like
Yeah.
the dinners. Maybe I can change. Maybe this week it will be tofu and next week will be chicken.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Exactly.
Ask me in a year.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
We will come back to this
Yes.
in a year.
Oof, if we are not cancelled in a year.
Yeah, this episode, maybe.
Yeah, I think this was a relatively serious episode.
Yeah.
We did pretty well.
Yeah.
Keeping on track.
Yes. Oh, yeah, true. This is good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I enjoy the other ones as well. When I'm editing them, I'm like, what the hell were we thinking?
You know, you can like cut stuff out. Like
I know, but sometimes it's just fun to leave it in. This is going in. Also think it's nice when you leave this stuff in. Like people think like, okay, we're just having a conversation with these
true.
idiots while I don't know, cooking. Or driving or
yeah,
whatever.
Misha told me that she was like, "Can you make them shorter? I cannot pay attention for that long." And I was like,
You don't have to pay
no.
attention for that
Yeah.
long. You can just
"Yeah,
jump in
you don't
at
have
any
to pay
point.
attention to it. That's the beauty. We're not
Yeah.
talking about anything intelligent."
Yeah. Also think that there are very nice golden nuggets
Yeah.
that we can just put on clips. And I'm gonna find the time to do it eventually. Probably my PhD. When my PhD stops being an obstacle, I will do it, and it will be very lit.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway for this one is probably the highest impact that you have on your life is just buying new things. If you have a car and you drive it and you don't have to, well, maybe try not to, even though it's fun sometimes. And try to eat less meat.
Yeah, I think like your individual actions. It's not that they don't matter, but don't like worry too much about them. It's not.
Yeah. Oh, there's also uncertainty of like how bad it is the thing that you do. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
just-
gradual. Like it's not
Yeah.
a moral failing
I
on
think
your part to
that's the
be
biggest
eating meat.
takeaway.
Yeah.
Take us for an example. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yes.
And yeah, eat tofu sometimes.
It used to suck. Now it doesn't suck so much. So yeah. Anyway, have a good day. I hope you get late. Bye.
Air fryers are the best.
Okay. Bye.
I also a big fan of trains.
Yeah, but that's because you're autistic.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, well, I also like you.